Hi everyone. Today I'll continue with my topic, that is failures in FPD. In last class, I told you guys regarding the biological reasons which causes FPD failure. Today I'll talk about various mechanical reasons which cause FPD failure. Firstly, how the mode of cementation which can lead to the failures in FPD. The cementation is a procedure which is having so many phases in that, from the moment you start mixing the powder and liquid till the cement sets. For example, when you start mixing a cement, there is something called water powder ratio which will be declared by the manufacturers. You are supposed to do exactly what they say. If you alter the water powder ratio a bit, it will eventually affect the longevity of your particular restoration. Then after mixing, what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to paint the cement in the intaglio surface of the particular restoration. When you do that, you are supposed to paint it evenly. Failure to do so can also lead to a failure. After mixing it, you will be gently seating the particular restoration on the prepared tooth. While doing that, there are chances for contamination. Contamination by the blood, contamination by saliva, contamination by water, etc. can happen in between. So you are supposed to isolate that operation field from these contaminants to avoid the contamination. If the cement is contaminated by these particles, it can cause the failure for that particular FPD. Then after that, you are supposed to press the prosthesis firmly for a specified period of time for the better results. Failure to do so also can lead to a failure. This is about the improper cementation. Now we'll talk about the fit of prosthesis. How the fit of prosthesis affects the failure rate. Fit means marginal fit as well as internal fit. Marginal fit is the fit of prosthesis on the margins or the finish line of the prepared tooth. The internal fit is the fit or the distance between the prepared tooth and the restoration, the inside intaglio surface of the particular restoration. How much distance they have is decides the fit of prosthesis. If there is a very little space, that means your prosthesis will be tightly fitted. It will be difficult to place or retrieve that particular prosthesis from the prepared tooth because of the very minute space which was given. So it's like you should give a space of 25 micron, at least 25 microns for best results. So that is the main film thickness of most of the cements. Each cement is having some amount of film thickness by the manufacturers. So you are supposed to check the film thickness of each cement and accordingly use those cements for cementation. That means a cement which is having film thickness of 10 microns, that means you are supposed to give a space between the prepared tooth and the intaglio surface of your crown, 10 microns. If you increase that 10 microns into 20 or 30 microns, that means it will hinder the properties, the desired properties of that particular cement. That means it can cause failure. 10 means you are supposed to write in the list where you give to the lab, like you are planning to use this particular cement for this procedure. When you write so, the lab people will come to know about that particular cement and its film thickness. So they will give a restoration or crown with that specification. So that's in your hand. So you should be thinking about the cement which you are using in each case. For example, if you are doing a crown, you're preparing a tooth, you prepared it already, and there is a sufficient crown height in that case, then you can go for a cement which is having more film thickness, because the height of restoration is an advantage in that case. It will help you for retaining that particular crown on that prepared tooth. In another case, if you are doing a preparation for a shorter tooth, your prepared tooth is very much shorter, then you can use a cement with lesser film thickness. When you use a cement with lesser film thickness, that means your restoration or crown will fit accurately on that particular prepared tooth. There won't be any rocking because there is very less internal space between your prepared tooth and the restoration. So depending on your case, you are supposed to select the type of cement you are using. You are supposed to give the film thickness accordingly. So that is about the fit. Now coming to excessive span length, how it can cause the mechanical failure. It is purely depends on the designing part. There is something called Andy's law. Whichever FPD you are giving, it should substantiate the Andy's law. If you are giving a very long processes which is not according to Andy's law, which is not substantiate Andy's law, it can eventually leads to failure. That you won't be able to do anything, because initially the patient may be happy, but in long run it won't sustain over there because of poor planning. So in that case you can't do anything about it. If it fails, then you can think about another options, another removable options or implant options. Then how heavy occlusal forces can lead to mechanical failure. The place where you are giving the restoration is more important than what restoration are you giving. For example, when you are giving a crown or an FPD in any of the region, you should check thoroughly for, you should consider what comes opposite to it, what comes in contact with your restoration, your FPD or crown, whatever it is. Because if you having you having your natural teeth on the opposing side, then the patient can exert a pressure up to 120 to 180 pounds. 1 pound is roughly a half kilogram. To be precise, 0.45 kilograms. So if the opposing tooth present on that opposing side, then the patient can exert a pressure up to 60 kilograms as a masticatory load on that particular restoration what you are planning to give. If your restoration is opposing an RPD, then the patient can exert up to 30 pounds. That is roughly 15 kilograms. If the opposing is a complete denture, then patient can exert only up to 20 pounds, up to 10 kilograms. If it is an FPD, then 50 to 80 pounds the patient can exert. So this data you should consider before planning for your FPD. What comes opposite in your planned FPD? So that also can be influenced your restoration planning. For example, you are planning to replace the 3-4, that is first premolar. If you think in a conventional way, you can take the neighboring teeth, that is the canine as well as the second premolar, as abutment for that particular FPD. If the patient is a complete denture wearer on the maxillary arch, you can think about cantilever FPD. You can take support from the canine tooth so that the 2-unit FPD can be given in that case, because it will not cause so much of pressure on that particular pondic area, which will not hinder the longevity of the restoration. So before deciding your treatment plan, you should consider all these things in your mind. Now, how will you detect the failures? All these failures, if happens, there will be the loosening of the restoration from the prepared tooth. If there is loosening, it will be slightly mobile in clinically. If it is very obvious, that is fine, then you can appreciate it. If it is not so much appreciable, for example, 3-unit FPD in which the cement failure happened only at one end. In that case, that particular FPD will be seated in patient's mouth for a longer time with a slight deflection. So in such cases, what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to use an explorer below the pondic area and try to pull that FPD out. When you pull that FPD, as the cement is failed already on one end, it will come out a bit, but it will not come out as the other end is firmly cemented. Then you are supposed to push it, seat it properly. When you do that, the whatever air bubbles entrapped inside that FPD will come out, which is clinically evident. So you can check in that way. Then treatment depends on the case what you did. If it is due to the improper cementation, then you can do a proper cementation after retrieval of the prosthesis. If it is due to the improper fit or poor fit, then you can give a new prosthesis with better fit. If it is due to excessive span length, then you can't do much about it, because if the failure happens, you can think about another treatment plans. Then heavy occlusal forces, you can correct it to an extent with the occlusal reduction. Then another one is connector failure. Imagine this premolar, molars are the parts of an FPD, and this and this are the connectors, 3 connectors. And the middle connector, this one, the height of that particular connector is very less. It's very short. The possible reason is due to the supraeruption of the opposite tooth. This much space it consumes than the opposing FPD. So in this case, due to the thickness of connector is less, it can cause the bending or fracture of the existing FPD in long run. So if this kind of case comes to you, what you are supposed to do is you should try to recreate the space for this your FPD. How you can recreate is, if you need a little bit space, you can advise you can advise enameloplasty, so that some amount of enamel can be trimmed off and you can reoccupy the space which is lost. If it is severe like this, then what you can do is you can send the patient for an intentional RCT followed by a crown which is short. When you give a short crown at this level, you will get more space to accommodate your FPD with a good amount of thickness for your connector, which will in turn gives you the longevity for your restoration. Then another reasons for failures are tooth fractures. Tooth fractures after your cementation of your FPD or crown. Tooth fracture is mainly divided into 2. crown fracture as well as root fracture. How a crown fracture happens? It mainly happens due to existing caries. Some people thinks that after root canal treatment, it's not necessary to excavate or take out all the caries which is present on that particular tooth, which is extremely wrong. That concept is wrong. Some people thinks root canal is a dead tooth, so that there won't be any caries progression on that particular tooth. This will cause crown fracture for sure. If you leave a bit of caries on that root canal treated tooth, it will progress in the later years. Some 1 or 2 years it may take for crown fracture. So never ever do that. When you are doing a root canal treatment, you are supposed to excavate all the caries, existing caries, because after sometimes one doctor may do the root canal treatment and one doctor may do the crown. So the doctor who is doing crown will expect the other doctor to do all the necessary precautions, including arresting all caries. Then another reason is there is something called when you give a crown for anterior tooth, if there is caries more than 25%, you are supposed to give a post and core for that particular tooth to strengthen that tooth. In the same case, if the tooth have a crown loss of crown of more than 50% due to caries, you are supposed to do the post and core treatment before giving crown. Failure to do so can also leads to crown fracture, because if there is that much crown loss due to caries, what we gonna do is we will be replacing it with some cements, for example GIC or composite, which cannot replace that much missing tooth. Tooth integrity can't be replaced by such cements. You can replace that much with to an extent, not more than 25 or 50%. So you should send the patient for post and core. Now coming to root fracture. Root fracture mainly happens after the placement of post and core, mainly the post part. For placing a post in a root canal, you are supposed to make a post space to occupy the post. When you create a post space, there are chances of root fracture. Sometimes that post space what you are creating may come very near to the apex or may go laterally, so that causes perforations. All these can cause failures. Such failures can't be corrected. You can extract the tooth if the patient is having pain, then you can think about another FPD or implant. Some other failures can happen during that post cementation. When you cement a post into the post space with some amount of cement on that, before cementing the post there will be some amount of cement on that post space. Then you will be trying to push that particular post into the post space. So some amount of cement will be trapped on the apex area, which will cause the generation of hydrostatic pressure. When there is the generation of hydrostatic pressure, that much pressure will sustain there for a period of time, and which may lead to root fracture later. So what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to give grooves, vertical grooves on the post before cementation. When you have a groove on your post and when you try to cement it, push it into the post space, excess cement which is there on the apex will flow through that particular groove to the outside. Therefore, there won't be any excess hydrostatic pressure generation in that case. So this is also very important for getting longevity for your processes. Rest I will talk in the next class. Thank you everyone.